everybody.
I think we're all here.
And just need to get my later. And you got the what was the date on the letter?
10th, you said.
Let me say good afternoon and thank you to the ladies and gentlemen of the press and media. Thank you for being here today for this very important press conference. We appreciate your patience today and this afternoon. My name is James Dixon. I am humbled to serve as the president of the local chapter of the Houston NAACP, the Houston chapter of the NAACP. Honored to be here today, standing with a group of friends and colleagues to make a very important statement. But before we do that, I want to thank Congressman Al Green for helping to pull this together on a number of levels. We appreciate him and certainly appreciate the partnership and support of Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's office as well. We appreciate them. And Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher expressed regrets have not been able to be present on today. Before we make an official statement, I'd like to just have everyone in this aggregation here to state their name and affiliations so that we will have them on record. And then the few persons who will speak will do that succinctly at this time. Let me start to my extreme right. Dr. Gilbert, if you will, and let's come back.
Yeah, I'm Pastor S.J. Gilbert II, pastor of Mount Sinai Baptist Church in the heart of the Heights and president of the Houston Metropolitan Baptist Ministers Conference.
Gary Nakamura, National Vice President for Planning and Development for the Japanese American Citizens League.
Michael Crockett, I'm a businessman in the community, founder of CNS Cares, as well as I'm on the board of the NAACP Houston branch.
My name is Mary Ramos. I'm with LULAC District 8. I am the LULAC District 8 Director for the Elderly.
Sylvia.
Sylvia Donahue McCarter. I'm Vice President of Women in NAACP and member of the Executive Board.
Bishop John Ogletree. I'm on the Executive Board of the local chapter of the NAACP, Religious Affairs Chair, and also at First Metropolitan Church in Northwest Houston.
Johnny Tate. I am also affiliated with the local chapter of the NAACP, as well as a bishop in the Church of God in Christ.
Okay. And of course, we have our congressional reps. You know who they are. We will have them speak momentarily. Of course, the chairman is here, and he will speak as well on behalf of the state. Let me just say thank you for being here today. We are here today, of course. Judson Robinson is arriving with the Houston Area Urban League. And I want to mention Johnny Mata, who sent a representative to our meeting, Mr. Ed Rodriguez, on behalf of the Greater Houston Justice Coalition. Again, my name is James Dixon. Today we're here, first of all, to express our individual and collective concerns for all of the citizens in the Houston-Harris County region who have dealt with the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. We are all a part of the regional family, and to see so much suffering by the elderly and children and people in every quadrant of our city, including businesses that have taken a major hit as a result of Storm Beryl, a Category 1 hurricane that left us only grateful that this was not a Category 3, 4, or 5. To think of what the devastation could have and would have been had it been of another strength. It's a wake-up call to us in a significant way to suggest that it is very necessary that CenterPoint and all of our leadership began to think together about what we need to do to better prepare ourselves for these devastating events. We live in a storm-prone area, and clearly this storm let us know that we were not ready for something more significant. Today, we had the opportunity to have met with lead principals of CenterPoint, including CEO, the President Jason Wells, excuse me. Jeff Wells is a pastor, so I did not want to insinuate that that's the same person. But Jason Wells, along with the Senior Vice President, as well as his Government Relations Director, and as well as a board member of CenterPoint, Mr. Ricky Raven. We appreciate the fact that they were willing to sit with us for a meeting that went a little longer than we anticipated. I would express my concerns that I shared, and of course, we'll have our delegation members to speak to the question that they raised and the answers received. We do know that CenterPoint, we're all grateful that they were willing to acknowledge that there were mistakes made in this situation and things that could have been done better. This was not a meeting where anyone is in denial. We do appreciate the fact that they had already begun to think about what they could have done better and things that need to be done now in preparation of perhaps future storms. And CenterPoint, of course, will speak for themselves on more specifics. But I will mention this, the need to make certain that they communicate much better to the entire community on a more consistent basis was one of the featured topics in our dialogue and conversation. So many people, and all of us here represent thousands, if not millions of people, and our constituents were asking, church members, citizens were asking questions that leaders did not have answers to. CenterPoint acknowledges that there was a major gap and a major void in terms of their process of keeping the community informed and keeping our leaders informed. And that's one of the things that we insisted on collectively, that you should not be an elected official on the city, county, or state or federal level and not have up-to-date information directly from CenterPoint that we could be passed on to all of our constituents. I'll speak as a pastor of a church that was in the dark for 8 to 9 days to tell you that we fed 5,000 people on 3 different events in the dark without electricity, because churches serve as community centers, not just as worship centers. And I'm speaking for pastors who are here and others around the city and region who also were serving people, because churches are cooling centers, churches are shelters, churches are feeding centers, and churches and community centers were without power and without communication. We talked about a number of those sorts of incidents that made this a very difficult situation to manage. CenterPoint did give commitment to us to visit these matters and others in a way that would be not only reactive, but proactive going forward into the future. I will close with this and then have our delegation members to speak. But let me say this, it's very important that we understand that although there are mistakes, although there are admissions, we do need to also remember that we're humanity. We are fellow human beings and fellow citizens. We're asking all of our citizens, thank you for your patience, but let's be sure and not do anything harmful to workers who are in our communities trying to restore power and help to bring our communities back to a place of normalcy. Violence is not an answer. We understand anger, we understand tempers, we understand the passion, but that's not going to help anyone in any positive way. So we're here today to say collectively, we want to see better coming from CenterPoint, better responsiveness and preparedness into the future from an infrastructure perspective, and some of that will be spoken to on today, but also from a human concern and human care perspective. There are things that CenterPoint could have done and hopefully will do into the future that will help mitigate the negative impact on citizens when these kinds of natural disasters occur. At this time, I'd like to ask our congressman to come, Congressman Al Green. I appreciate him again for his support, and then Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia will speak, and we'll move forward from there. Congressman Al Green.
Thank you very much, Bishop. I greatly appreciate the energy and effort that you put into this endeavor. Let me thank the members of the press for being here as well. And please allow me to express my concern for those who are still suffering. There are some people who will be suffering long after the storm has passed on. There are some people who are inconvenienced, but there are others who have family members that will no longer be with us. And we ought not forget that they are still in need of some help. Yes. And we want to provide all of the help that we can to assure them that they are not forgotten. Right. This is important. And as to the comment that the bishop made about the persons who are here working, many of these persons are from out of the city, yes, out of the state. Their family members are part of this process by virtue of them having to be here. They are without their family members. We ought to care enough for people who would traverse some great distance to help us, such that we will want to protect them. Yes. We will want to make sure that they know that we care about them, and we want their family members to know that we care about them. This is important. Let's be kind to those who are here to help us. That's right. Now, I was sort of the unofficial note taker at the meeting, and I'd like to give you some of my unofficial notes. And these are some of the things that CenterPoint has agreed to. These notes are here in my right hand, and I believe that they are fairly accurate, but if CenterPoint differs, they will tell you so. One of the things that they've agreed that they will do is they will have press briefings. Now, members of the press, you ought to be proud to hear this. They've indicated that they will have daily press briefings if a similar circumstance should manifest itself. I think that's important. They've said that they will explain the length of outages to people. There are people who go on and they don't know what to expect and when to expect to have power again. Well, they've said they want to correct that, so they will explain the length of outages. They have an outage tracker that will be fully functional in August. This means that they will be able to better track the areas where there is a lack of electricity so that they can allocate their resources appropriately and timely. They have said that they will improve their communications with elected officials. Now that impresses me because I'm one of the elected officials who complained about the lack of communication, appropriate communication, so that we can be of help to them. But they've said they're going to do something about that. They said that they will need the ability to expand what I call their tree trim area, the area around those trees that are falling and the trees themselves that fall. We want to make sure that that happens, and I'm going to hold them to it. And they need help, so I'm going to help in any way that I can. They need to have composite poles to replace wooden poles. A lot of these poles don't withstand the hurricanes that come through, but composite poles can do better, and there's even better technology that Bishop Tate called to our attention that can be used to help us to avoid having the poles go down. And finally, this one is most important, the after-action report. They have said they will share the after-action report that they compile with us. This is important because we can then see what they contend happened. We can see what they contend they will do to correct any of the things that went wrong. And my hope is that this after-action report will give us an opportunity to give them an additional response. CenterPoint had a very frank and candid conversation with us today. We were candid. We were straightforward. We were to the point. We spoke on behalf of the constituents that we serve. Yes. They needed to hear the voices of our constituents, and we carried that message to them. Finally, this, I appreciate the fact that they were humble. Yes. They didn't start by saying, oh, we did everything right. Don't blame us. This is somebody else's fault. They took responsibility. Taking responsibility is important, but taking responsibility is not enough. Now they have to do something to show us that we won't have this occur in the future. It's important to do this because we know that storms are coming back to Houston. It will happen, and we want to make sure that we are prepared. So Bishop Dixon, what you have done to allow the community's voices to be heard is something that we ought to celebrate and appreciate. So I thank you for what you've done, and all of my colleagues and friends who are here with us, but you are the tip of the spear. You were there to assure us that we would be present, and that means something. Thank you, Bishop. I yield to my colleague who represents a district right adjacent to mine, who came to Congress prepared to serve, having served as a city controller, having served as a state senator, having served as a judge, and now a congressperson. Would you welcome my colleague?
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman. And I'll begin there. He's right. I've been here not in all those positions, and in every one of those positions, I've had to deal with events, whether it was Tropical Storm Allison, whether it was Ike, whether it was Harvey, whether it was Katrina, whether it was Rita. We've always had events because we are flood prone and we are storm prone. But the reality is, I'm just sick and tired of the same excuses from CenterPoint every time we go to one of these events. As I said, and have been quoted on already, I'm just mad as hell. And I'm still mad as hell because even today we've got 10,000 customers, more or less, and that's customers. Remember, a customer could be one apartment, but that apartment's got 200 people. A customer could be one house, but they've got 5 people. So it's more than just 10,000 people that are still being impacted, and I feel their pain, and we must continue to make changes at CenterPoint so that we don't have this situation still on day 11 after a storm. And as Congressman Green reminded us, we've got to remember and not forget all those that have died.
Yes.
Because some have died. I think the number is at what, 17? I think that's what the last number I heard. You know, that's people that, but for some better preparation, some better coordination, we could have proactively done something to save those lives. Throughout all of these events, and throughout my entire career, there's 3 things that they always remind us of, and they're all C's. That you've got to have communication, you've got to have coordination, and you've got to have command and control. I think CenterPoint failed on every single one. He talked about communication.
Yeah.
If you don't have communication, there's people making up stories. Things got on social media. It makes things worse, not better. If you don't have coordination and we don't know where you're coming, when you're coming, we don't know where you're going to send these folks that came from out of town, and we bless them and we thank them because they came. But we had stories of some of them sitting around waiting for instructions. I don't know if it's true, but it could have been a lack of coordination. And command and control, it just looked like chaos coming out of CenterPoint, not command and control. The command and control I saw was Judge Hidalgo and Mayor Whitmire, but I'm not sure even they knew what CenterPoint was doing. And that's the problem. And to their credit, he did use the words, he said, we failed the community. And I agree with him. And they failed miserably on all 3 points. This meeting we had today, we should have had 2 months ago to prepare. But that's why we're here today, because we want to move forward. And with the leadership of Reverend Dixon and everyone here around us, we hope that we can work closer together with CenterPoint to make sure that people are not left behind. And if there is going to be a new pole, a composite pole, I want to make sure that those are in my neighborhood and not just in the new constructed suburban neighborhoods. You know, I want to make sure that if there's critical infrastructure that's protected and looked at first, I want to make sure that my churches and my clinics get on that list.
Right.
Not just the medical center, because my folks don't go all the way to the medical center. They go to their neighborhood clinic. Right. So there's a lot of things we can do. But rest assured that together with our entire congressional delegation, because I know Sheila Jackson Lee's not here and Representative Fletcher's not here, but I can tell you that we will use our oversight power in any way that we can to ensure that CenterPoint does everything they need to do to make sure this never happens again. Because we do send federal dollars. That's your money. And we're going to make sure that they spend it for the reason we gave it to them, and that they do it and do it quickly. Because yes, they made a lot of commitments. The real question will be, how soon are they going to get those things done? Because the goal has got to be no more deaths, no more fatalities, no more injuries, and that, frankly, this doesn't get repeated. I'm tired of it. I'm sure the community is. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Let me, as we bring Chairman Ron Reynolds of the our state representative, I do want to say that what you're hearing is that not only were people in the dark in terms of electricity, we were in the dark in terms of information.
Right.
And we should be all in the light. It should be knowledgeable. We should know, and that's what we really hammered home to CenterPoint on today. And their crisis management processes failed. And we are deliberately saying that has to change. And we want an ongoing dialogue with CenterPoint, that we don't find out reactively when something happens. We're all working together proactively to prevent and to mitigate some of these circumstances. State Representative Ron Reynolds.
Thank you, Bishop Dixon, and thank you, Congressman Al Green, Congresswoman Sylvia. I want to thank the pastors for being here, the clergy, NAACP and LULAC, because this was truly a community meeting today that we had with CenterPoint Energy. And I will definitely say that there was a colossal failure from CenterPoint, but it just doesn't stop with CenterPoint. I can tell you at the state level, the state has oversight over from the Public Utility Commission and ERCOT over CenterPoint. And one of the things that we learned during Winter Storm Uri was that we didn't have a secure grid. And at the time, I served on the Energy Resources Committee, and we had hearings, and we found that there were best practices. Now, some of those practices we did implement as a state, but some of them we did not implement. It's unfortunate that we still have a Band-Aid approach when we need a holistic approach, because as Congresswoman Garcia stated, we know that we're going to have more hurricanes, more storms. That is the reality. But how do we prepare for it? How do we become more resilient? And so we have a duty at the state level to make sure that we have reliable electricity for customers, for consumers. And it is sad that we had human loss that could have possibly been prevented. Now, we know that there are some things that are called acts of God, but there are some things that can be prevented. And there are many instances that could have been prevented from Hurricane Beryl. And so I'm looking forward to the state. We've already heard from Governor Abbott that there will be investigations. We've already seen Lieutenant Governor Patrick call for a special interim committee. I'm calling on Speaker Phelan to have that from the House. And we have to implement some things at the state level to have more oversight, more transparency. There was the failure of the seas. And so thank you at the federal level. We will definitely make sure at the state level we do a better job because we cannot continue to have crisis after crisis and be in the same position. So thank you all the stakeholders. And I want to thank CenterPoint for listening today, because we didn't cut any corners. We were very direct, we were very frank, and we shared the frustration and the pain from our constituents. So Bishop Dixon, again, thank you for assembling us together. I look forward to an ongoing dialogue and then reporting back to the public so we can restore trust from the people who have lost it from this failure that could have been prevented. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As said earlier, we're pleased to have with us members of LULAC, as well as the Greater Houston Justice Coalition. I'm going to ask that, that Mayor Ramos would have a word on behalf of that community, that constituency, because she understands firsthand what this is really all about. Mary?
Thank you, sweetheart. First, let me thank the press so much for having time to come out here and then wait for us after our meeting. I think that meeting was very productive with CenterPoint. We made our issues known to them, and I really liked their response to us. But let me say that the most important thing to me, why I attended today, was because I care about the elderly. I am the LULAC District Director for the elderly, and a lot of these nursing homes didn't have power for days, especially one that has handicapped senior citizens. No power, and this like an 8-story building. How are they going to get down? I do not understand how come those were not taken care of first. And it should have been number one on the list. Hospitals, churches, senior citizens, these are the things where people go for comfort that should have been taken care of. So I hope CenterPoint does exactly what they promised us they were going to do and take care of all our citizens, because just the loss of one life is too many.
Thank you so very much, Mary. As you see, we represent the entire community. We're grateful to have Gary Nakamura here with the Texas Mutual Advocacy Coalition. Gary, would you come and just have a word, please?
Hello, my name is Gary Nakamura. I represent the Japanese American Citizens League. We are the oldest and largest Asian American civil rights organization in the country. And I also have the great pleasure of serving as a founding board member of the Texas Multicultural Advocacy Coalition with Bishop Dixon. This whole situation, as you already know, is extremely tragic. Obviously, it hits all of us. The Asian American Pacific Islander community has been hit hard as well. So I'm very grateful to Bishop Dixon and the leadership of Congressman Al Green and Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia and our city level leaders for making sure that all of our voices are heard. And that's so important for us to continue to coalesce together and to work with each other and to make sure that all segments of our population are represented. So I just wanted to, on behalf of our API community in Houston, I just wanted to show my support, and I thank all of my colleagues again. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to fail to mention that County Judge Lena Hidalgo did have a representative in the meeting. She was traveling but did not be there herself, and did speak with Mayor Whitmire. He was invited to the meeting, could not for schedule reasons, but did give his support to the need for us to have this very important meeting as well. And I want to speak to that. And Congresswoman Lee did have a representative in the meeting speaking on her behalf as well. We want to be sure and acknowledge that. I do want to ask at this time, Dr. John Ogletree, Bishop Ogletree, is going to speak on behalf of the pastors. The pastors who are here are all judicatory leaders. They have churches and constituents under their leadership, so we're so pleased to have their influence and their voices in this conversation. Thank you, Dr. Gilbert, for being here, Houston Metropolitan Ministers as well. We appreciate you. Bishop Johnny Tates, thank you. And now Bishop Ogletree will speak.
Thank you, Bishop Dixon. Thank you for arranging this most critical meeting today with CenterPoint. We urged as CenterPoint to make a priority of the church community, the center of hope for so many in this city, and it is so important that we are prioritized. They were good listeners. As Congressman Green said, they were humble and admitted their mistakes. And we hope so. It has been said that you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. And it has been predicted that this is going to be the most busy storm season that we've ever experienced. So we pray that what has been learned from their mistakes with Hurricane Beryl will benefit the citizenry of Houston and Harris County in the future.
Thank you, Bishop Ogletree. We're pleased to have our partner and ally with the Houston Area Urban League, represented by the CEO, who needs no introduction, former City Councilman Justin Robertson III.
Thank you, Bishop. To my colleagues who represent thousands, if not millions of people throughout the region, I want to thank them for joining the leadership today to have this important discussion about what can we all do better. CenterPoint had an opportunity to really listen today to ideas that we had, observations that we made about things that could have been done better. It is my hope that they will take the wise counsel of this body to their leadership table. And when it comes time to make plans about the future of our city and how to protect those who are most vulnerable, that is top of mind. Our seniors, those who live in homes for the elderly, our schools, our churches, people who already live on the margins have to be included in the thought processes when you talk about when is it time to buy poles, when is it time to consider generators for those who have need for them, when is it time to do other things that perhaps best practices are being done other places that we are not doing here in our hometown. It's a company that has stood beside us in so many ways for so many years, and we see this as an opportunity to do better. 17 people? 17? That should never happen in a city as sophisticated, as organized, and a city that works together, like Houston, Texas. So we hope that moving forward, we won't have these discussions again, because we've had them in advance of disaster. Houston is a disaster place. And the sooner we come to recognize that and work together more holistically as a community, the better our overall community will be. Bishop Dixon, thank you for your leadership, sir.
Thank you. No, I want to thank the team. It's a collaborative effort, and certainly we're grateful for all of us and appreciate all of us. I'll close with this, and if there are questions from the media, it's very important that we put people first. That is the central message and the galvanizing message, that we have to put people first, and we have to put the most vulnerable people first, because vulnerable people, if you're already in poverty and then a hurricane comes or a freeze or a storm or a power outage and you're already behind, we cannot imagine the pain of those individuals being exacerbated and multiplied many times over. We hope that CenterPoint will move forward progressively. They took copious notes and agreed, as the Congressman said, to give us the after action report to say to us that they really got it and that the agenda in writing is what we want to see. And ultimately, we want to work with them collaboratively, because if we do it together and not in silos, we stand a better chance of mitigating negative circumstances and outcomes as devastating as the Congresswoman has mentioned. We're looking forward to that with great hope and great anticipation. This is Houston, and we are the third or fourth largest city in America. And to be truly a global city, we have got to improve our deliverables for the people who matter, and that's every citizen of Houston, Harris County, and the region. We also asked them to consider leading a regional summit on how we prepare for these kinds of incidents, not just in Houston proper, but around our county and around the region, because we live together, we suffer together, we survive together, and we must save lives together. Thank you very much. Yes.
Bishop Dixon, it was mentioned that CenterPoint in the future will have press briefings. Is there a reason why they're not here today?
I don't think they were prepared to come today. I know that this was a quickly scheduled meeting, and they obviously fit the time in for that meeting that lasted about an hour and a half as opposed to an hour. But I think that you can certainly ask questions of them, and I'm sure they're looking forward to making a statement on their own.
I know you mentioned a little earlier who was all there. Can you mention again who was all there with CenterPoint at today's meeting?
Okay, let me make sure you're testing my memory.
Okay.
Of course, Jason Wells, the CEO, was there. Senior Vice President was there as well, along with Ricky Raven, who's a board member, and June Diedrich, who is their government relations communications person as well.
And lastly, who exactly was the one that said that they failed the community? Was that Jason Wells?
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
He said it more than once.
More than once, at least 5 times.
He said it
Yes,
more than once.
yes.
Was it recorded by any chance? Did anybody record this meeting? This was just a whatever.
First thing that
No, it was not recorded.
Congressman Green and,
Can you give some more details on what they told you about this better outage tracker that they vowed by August?
Yes, Congressman.
Well, thank you very much. As you know, they had great difficulty ascertaining where the problems were. They were out and about, and they were taking care of problems as they were being made aware of them. But they would like to have the technology online such that they would be able to track the areas where there is an outage with greater efficiency. And if they can do this, then they can better allocate their resources. And they've indicated that by August, they want to have this innovation in place so that they can track the outages and respond timely. And if I may say this, one more thing. You asked about the number of times that they said that they were concerned and that they'd made mistakes. They really did humble themselves on that point. I don't want to just kind of brush over that, because people don't always do this. They sometimes will try to pass the buck, but there was no buck passing. And the bishop did invite them and said that you can come to the press event, but they weren't prepared. I understood that they were not, so I don't want that to be taken as a negative against them. But I do want to say that they have to do better, and that we were candid about the things that they have to get right so that we can save lives and prevent suffering.
Have they given you guys an update on when power will be restored 100%?
I don't think we have an update on the exact on that. That's a CenterPoint question, but they are working vigorously to make sure that they get all of those that are still outstanding taken care of expeditiously. And I do want to emphasize the Congressman's point. It was made by Congresswoman Garcia as well. They were not recalcitrant. I will be honest with you, I was not expecting as humble a disposition as we were met with today. And having been in a number of these kinds of circumstances and conversations, it's appreciated. The fact that and it's encouraging, because it's a non-starter when there's defensiveness and recalcitrance. But they were open and began the meeting in their opening statement with the fact that they apologized for the way that the city and the citizens were failed in this. But I do believe that we have the makings of a better plan, of better plans going forward, and we emphasize the need for collaboration. This is not something that they can solve by themselves. They're going to have to be inclusive of our elected leadership, of faith leaders, social and civic leaders as well. And, for example, they did not realize the enormous resource, I don't think, that churches can be to a plan going forward, because we are touching the need. Yeah. We have facilities. We know how to serve people, feed people, clothe people, and not only pray for people. That is included. Yeah. So I think they recognize the fact that they've got a major resource in terms of all of our community assets as a part of the solutions strategy going forward.
Bishop?
Yes.
I just want to say this. So to They did send a communication, I just looked, that came out today, that they would have electricity restored to, today they did 98%, by the end of the day tomorrow, 100%. That was the communication they sent to the state legislators, that they were, all the people who could receive electricity, meaning that there was no other kind of barrier, that they would have electricity restored by the end of day tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
So they told you every outage should be restored by tomorrow?
Yeah, barring any other issues.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Let me thank you very much again. We appreciate that, and this is again, we appreciate your patience for us to return, and want to reiterate, of course, that first question. We don't have any tape recordings of any meetings, and we don't suspect that there are any. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Very well said.
Great job, sir.